Forget the reviews today of AMD 7900 XTX. I'm going to tell you what other reviewers may not tell you. The real important day is tomorrow. We have to see availability and pricing of these GPUs. It doesn't matter if they tell you like this was a 6900 XT, $999. Nobody found it for this for a very long time. It doesn't matter if they tell you that price. If you can't find it and you're stuck with an AIB model that's above the price of a 4080, then that's going to change these numbers around a lot. The reviewers that are telling you the numbers today, it's all great on the technical side, but on the real market side, you really are not going to have an idea until tomorrow. And that's where I come in. And of course, remember to smash that like button and subscribe if you like these type of videos, because I'll give you sort of that on the street type of feel. I'm going to be at the actual launch at one of the micro centers and see exactly what's going on. So stay subscribed for that. This is a 6900 XT, and of course it beats this pretty handedly, and it also kind of beats the 4080 in many games. On average, it seems like from the reviews, it does a pretty good job, and it even catches up to the 4090. Of course, as expected, ray tracing performance is still out, and there's still a little bit of some driver issues here and there. But what about the availability? How many GPUs are going to be available tomorrow? Most people stick to the fact that $999 is the price that we're expecting, and we expect it to be in stock because it's not a GPU shortage like it was last year. And of course, this is also a chiplet design, which we would guess has to have more production happening. So from the numbers we saw, seemingly it seems like we're going to have around 200,000 GPUs in 2022, which is basically this month. This is going to be both the 7900 XT and the XTX. And it seems like around 30,000 of those are going to be the reference models. This is important because that's $999. Also, something a little funny. I mean, I was watching Gamers Nexus review, and according to him, he doesn't think the reference model is really all that great this generation. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows 10 Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. I actually always like the reference models and the 6900 XT. I really like the design, but sometimes, of course, it can run a little bit louder, maybe a little bit hotter than some of the, AIB models like from Power Color. And this generation looks like maybe it's going to go a little bit further because the cooler maybe is not enough to handle the higher power draw in the same efficient way as a big beefy cooler like from Power Color and the different AIB partners. But this is interesting because it's going to push more people towards the AIB models. Look at those numbers, 30,000 versus potentially 170,000 AIB models. We know that Europe is only maybe going to get 7 to 10,000 of these reference models, which aren't that many, leaving the rest presumably for some other countries and probably the majority to the United States, where we see a lot of these reference models. That means that comparatively, when you go shopping, you're going to have a much better chance at buying an AIB model rather than a reference one. And this is important because the reference is $999, but we don't exactly know the day before release the pricing of the AIB cards. We're probably going to start seeing them soon within the next few hours, and by tomorrow we could see what a 7900 XTX from somewhere like Power Color or Asus will cost. This is going to be vital. Of course, it beats the 4080 in many games, but if it costs as much or more than a 4080 in the real world pricing, I don't care about MSRP pricing of the reference model. That's too easy to throw around and not have too much inventory, and AMD could probably take a bigger loss on these. I really care about what you're going to see in the street. Let's say if you go to your local micro center, if you go to Newegg, Best Buy, are you more likely to run into like a $1,200 7900 XTX than you are a $999 one? I think that may be very, very likely. Going to be hard to tell. If it is a lot of stock that they have already spread out evenly, it's possible we could see some decent pricing and people may be happy. But if the stock really isn't as good as we're expecting, then it's possible we're going to run into a lot of expensive AIB models, therefore negating eliminating any type of advantage it may have over the 4080. Because remember, while it does in traditional rasterization on average seem to do better than the 4080, when you put in ray tracing, it starts to change a little bit. And then when you factor in maybe content creation, 3D work, and Blender, then the 4080 typically will have that advantage back. So if you're talking about roughly the same price, I think more people will go towards the 4080, even though it's not really the best value compared to the 7900 XTX. Now, if it really does stay closer to $1,000, there's no doubt that it's a better value than the 4080. The 4080 has been way too expensive. People don't want to buy it. It's been, pretty readily available, not only in local micro centers, but in stock in like Newegg and Best Buy. You can actually go pretty easy and find these available without having to go and pay a scalper. One interesting thing is how above and beyond the 4090 continues to be compared to everything else. You can see in all of the graphs, the 4090 just absolutely runs away with every single metric. It's the best in ray tracing, it's the best in rasterization. And while yes, it's also more expensive and almost impossible to find in some areas, that it's only maybe like $400 more than the 4080, and you definitely get a huge difference in the performance. Anyway, the XTX, it's really going to come down to the price on the street. It doesn't matter how much it beats the 4080 by. If the price is almost the same when you actually go and buy it, that's the main thing everybody misses. It's easy to say $999 for these reference models, but they're making less of them, and also they have other problems. They're not as good as the AIB models from the little bit that I've seen from like Gamers Nexus and people like that, because they do have maybe a little bit louder. Some of their power delivery is not going to be as good as the AIB models, but you're going to have to pay for that better performance on the same GPU, unfortunately, and that may start to pull it back out to the 4080's fairly really bad value type of standing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. In my opinion, the really important part of everything is not the reviews today, but in the availability and the price tomorrow. The interesting thing about these GPU launches is that if you search around, you'll find a lot of very particular use cases where one GPU beats the other. In gaming, this is common. You're going to see some games where AMD pulls ahead of the 4080, other games where NVIDIA has a big advantage. Of course, across the board, ray tracing is always on the NVIDIA side. That's why they push it so hard. And I know some people say that ray tracing is important. Some people say it's not. As of right now, it's really a toss-up. I mean, I think if you're going to be buying a really expensive GPU, ray tracing is part of the eye candy, and it's nice to be able to turn everything on. The people that want to do sort of traditional rasterization and are okay without ray tracing, I would have imagined that's better on maybe a cheaper GPU, because then you do more compromises. But on a $1,000 GPU, you definitely want to play on Ultra and with all the eye candy on. That's why I think NVIDIA still has that advantage there. But really, like I said 50 times, it's going to come down to the pricing on the street. If this GPU really is cheaper than the 4080 on average across the board, then it's going to be the superior choice. But if the AIB models realistically that you buy are going to be around the same price as the 4080, that's going to change the math around a lot, and basically all of the reviews have to take that into account, or else it's not really a proper comparison, because the real world is always very different than what these manufacturers tell us. Because it's one thing to tell us it's $999, it's another thing to actually buy it at that price, even after the GPU shortage has changed, and it's a different beast going into 2023. All right, guys, so let me know what you think. Are you going to go out and get this GPU, or are you waiting to see what some of the pricing and availability are going to be? The reviews, of course, are a little bit predictable. We knew it was going to be on par with the 4080, but really want to see what's going to happen tomorrow. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.